I wanted to call 911, but she insisted on riding in the cab with us.
Honey, she was raped.
Why do you always have to be her hero? Now the baby's too upset to come out.
Did she tell you what happened?
She was leaving the gym upstairs in our building when a guy pulled her into the stairwell and raped her at knife point.
Did she describe him?
He was wearing a ski mask. How the hell did he get in? That could have been you, Beth.
Except I don't parade around in public in my underwear.
She could run around naked. That doesn't excuse rape.
Sorry. It's just that she's constantly borrowing my husband. Daniel, can you kill the spider for me? Or my window's stuck. Flip my mattress.
I've never touched her mattress.
Okay. Has anyone been hassling her recently? Any unwanted attention?
Oh, attention's like a drug for her. She can't get enough.
Oh, come on, honey. Give the poor kid a break. She's had a rough year. Went through a couple of bad breakups.
And even violent?
Only if you count the guys tripping over themselves trying to get away from her.
In New York City, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. These are their stories.
Hey guys, welcome to Munch My Benson. My name is Adam. I'm back in Galveston for the weekend. I'm on the line with Josh. How is it going up there, Josh?
You know, it's going fine.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know you've been sticking it to the man the last few days, haven't you?
Attempting to. We'll see how that pans out. You know, my financial exposure is relatively limited. I don't have $200,000 in GameStop stock or anything like that. Yeah. But doing my part, holding the line.
Yeah.
Trying to fuck those hedge fund dickheads over.
Fuck those shitheads. As I was telling Josh before we started recording, those dickheads are the same fucking people that made it so that my kid is never going to get to go to Toys R Us. So he has to go to some, quaint local toy store or maybe to just an aisle at the fucking Target that has toys, but not an entire mega store devoted to toys. And he's going to suffer for that. And so fuck those shitheads.
But your pocketbook will be better off for it.
I don't know. I'm fucked regardless. You know how much these things cost?
These things called kids?
Those creatures, yeah.
They're money pits.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I've watched anything good the last few days since we spoke last, and I don't think I have anything really on my list. I was going to watch something for this episode, but I couldn't bring myself to Google it. I know it's available for free on the internet, but I did not watch the Harrison Ford film Witness before we watched this episode.
Yeah, I'm not really wild about that movie. I did just rewatch Trading Places last night.
Oh, Trading Places rules. Yeah, that's totally different though. But I guess
yeah. And I watched The New World last night.
Oh, nice.
Also.
Interesting.
The super long version, the original theatrical release that was only out for like 2 weeks, and then they pulled it and re-released a 30-minute shorter version.
Weird. I have not seen The New World, so I can't comment on it, but I imagine it is long and poetic.
Yeah,
lyrical. And the kind of movie that you don't often see in theaters.
That is true, yes.
I follow some account online, like One Perfect Shot, I think is what it's called, and they just did a bit about, they'll kind of like write a little piece that you can click on and, it's going to follow it down. They did a whole piece about the scene in Days of Heaven with the locusts. Which is a very lyrical, very beautiful scene. Like, it was all in camera. So it was not post-production effects that they used to get the locusts. And what they did is they actually filmed it in reverse, dropping peanut shells that they had dyed black. And that's how they got the effect.
Yeah, I think I'd read that. Or maybe I watched a thing about it. But yeah, I'd seen that before.
Yeah, they also did something you're not allowed to do anymore. And that's they glued live grasshoppers to plants to make it look like the plants were swarming with them.
But it's in Canada. They allow it there. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, that's where they shot it.
But we have an episode to get to.
We do.
I have a lot of shit that is tangential to this episode to discuss. Well, I guess actually it's fairly important. But yeah.
It is an episode. It is a wild one. It is from season 11, episode 16, called Witness. A comely blonde named Lainie McCallum barges into an apartment of a couple who are gathering their shit because Mrs. Apartment Lady is about to shoot a baby through her birth canal. Said comely blonde is in hysterics, justifiably so. She's been raped and has a nasty cut on her hand. Jump to the hospital, and our Vic has been sedated with Ativan, but not before she's had Nurse Hutchins call her boyfriend Jason 100 times. We then get the expectant father telling Benson and Stabler that she's had a rough year with a couple breakups, and his dickbag wife adds that guys were tripping over themselves to try to get away from her. They go back to Lainie's room, and she's pissed that Jason seems to give zero shits that she was just raped and is quick to blame Benson for this. She then walks them through the scene of the crime, remembering that her ski-masked rapist was white with blue-green eyes and had grabbed the banister while in the act. Then, after Lainie takes her top off in front of Stabler while he's mid-apartment sweep, Benson and Stabler discover that there was an eyewitness to the crime, an unidentified black woman. Finn and Munch check the surveillance footage with a super, and they get an array of photos to Lainie, who is able to identify the woman who pulled her rapist off her. The squad tracks the woman in the photo down to the 12th floor in Lainie's building, where she's a home healthcare nurse, but one who claims not to have seen anything. The unit tries to figure out which end is up, with Wong dubbing Lainie as someone who suffers from histrionic personality disorder, while the squad is left to figure out the likelihood of Lainie having made everything up for attention. Then Benson and Stabler rush out to tend to Lainie, who's in cuffs outside Jason's house. They bring her back to her apartment and try to suss out just what's going on, and while doing so, they see a neighbor spying on Lainie from across the way with a telescope. They trick him into providing them with DNA when he drinks from a proffered cup of water, and they match it to some pre-jack they found on her person. Cornered and tricked into thinking they've got the eyewitness, the rear window rapist quickly concocts a cockamamie explanation built around a misunderstanding and his acting out Lainie's rape fantasy. But Benson ain't buying what Bricey Boy is selling. As Finn and Munch try to track down our eyewitness who's in the wind, Cabot brings Lainie in front of the grand jury, but after complaining of hand pain, Lainie collapses in the courtroom and is rushed to the hospital. When Benson arrives at the hospital to meet Jesus fucking Christ, why can I not say this sentence right? When Benson arrives at the hospital to meet with Cabot, the doctor comes out to inform them that a previously healthy Lainie is going to fucking die. Yup. Die. Apparently, when they stitched up the cut in Lainie's hand, she got fucking MRSA, and now she's got hours to live. Olivia lies and tells Lainie that Jason's on his way to the hospital. Cabot and Liv get Lainie to record her dying declaration from her deathbed. Cabot adds felony murder to the charges she's filing against Bryce Felton, but without Gnarly Eula, their eyewitness, they're fucked, as everything hinges upon her being able to corroborate what happened in the stairwell. Finn and Elliot finally track down Gnarly, who watched her daughter get raped and die, and then was raped herself over and over and over in the Congo, and is in the U.S. as an undocumented refugee fleeing from the horror she faced. Then Benson and Cabot, Benbot, have a date where they talk about what a fuck show the international courts are. I'm really into Benbot. I'm disappointed that's not the name. Gnarly testifies in front of the grand jury, but as soon as she's outside the courtroom, fucking ICE shows up and snatches her up, which means Cabot has to trudge through the bowels of ICE detention centers, tracking down and freeing Gnarly. After they play Lainie's dying declaration, in which she says she only banged 3 dudes and she loved every one of them, and it sucked that shitbag rape boy was going to be the last guy to lay pipe in McCallum County, Gnarly testifies. Bryce Kelton's defense attorney really pushes the rape fantasy angle, but Gnarly ain't having any of that bullshit. She's from the war-torn Congo. She knows rape. She watched her daughter get brutally raped and die from the injuries 6 days later. She was raped more times than she could count in the Interahamwe militia camp she was kidnapped and dragged off to. She saw countless other women raped. Lainie was being raped. The jury brings back a guilty verdict on the rape, but the rape alone, and Gnarly gets a U visa for her cooperation, but she says she's going back to help the cause in the Congo. More than that, she's going because Cabot's heading off to the Congo to lock up some rapers, even if that means breaking up with Benson, and we get an every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you, Dick Wolf.
Oh. I definitely detected a note of jealousy in Benson when she found out from Eula that Cabot was leaving and that she didn't tell her, personally.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. This episode was rife with women being jealous of other women.
That's absolutely true.
Like, it was the entire episode.
Oh, man. You know, I had a lot more fun watching this the first time I watched it than the second time.
Yes. Yeah.
The first time I watched it, I was so stunned by the left turn with the MRSA that I didn't focus so much on the horrible details of the Interahamwe rape stories. And this second time I watched it, I definitely had to focus more on that.
Yeah, and it's just so fucking insane. But when the turn happens the second time you've seen it, it's like, okay, well, I know it's going there. But the first time, it's like, holy shit,
like,
MRSA?
What?
Really?
Necrotizing fasciitis? What? Drink?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
It's really, really bonkers.
Okay, before we jump into this, you drinking anything, Josh?
Yeah, I'm drinking what would certainly when I left Minnesota would have been one of my probably like 5 favorite beers. It's a seasonal, the Great Northern Porter from Summit Brewing. Okay. I think my palate's probably changed markedly in 20 years or so.
Well, also the massive beer movement has happened in the intervening years, right? So
yeah, totally. I mean, it's still good. Yeah. I'm not knocking it. But it's like it wouldn't crack a top 50 list or whatever.
Yeah.
For me.
I'm drinking a Dale's Pale Ale, which is fine, but it's the same thing. It's like, it's a good beer. I like it, but it's not.
It's totally serviceable.
Yeah, but it's not like out of this world or anything. I'm also drinking an espresso. It is really nice to be back home. In Beaumont, we have a drip coffee, you know, just like a $18 coffee pot shit. Man, I don't know if I ever really enjoyed coffee out of those things because I can't seem to nail it. It doesn't ever taste as good as it does out of my much fancier Italian machine that I have. That's
what brand is it?
It's a Saeco, Saeco.
Okay.
It basically grinds and pours, and it does a fucking bang up job.
Nice.
You know, you can adjust almost everything. The thing is 25 years old at this point. My parents got it in the 90s, and it's still going strong. But it is a pleasure drinking coffee out of it. I also have much better coffee here. I joined the Atlas Coffee Club. You know, it's like a monthly coffee subscription. It's good coffee. I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
Yeah. Where do you want to start with this? Do you want me to talk about the Congo for a half an hour, Josh, or do you want to do other stuff first?
Let's at least get the guest stars out of the way before we do the Congo.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll start with Diora Baird. She was playing Lainie. She was in Accepted. She was in Wedding Crashers. She's currently in... I didn't write this down.
She's in Cobra Kai.
Yeah, she's currently in Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
It's like I've been watching the fucking show.
Yeah.
She's Robbie's mom in it. She was in an episode of Casual, which that show's pretty fucking awesome. She had a recurring part in Shameless also back, I mean, this is like 10 years ago when she was in Shameless. She definitely tends to play attractive women in comedies, so she's at least got that going for her. She can be funny.
I thought she nailed this part. I thought she was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought
she's really good.
Really fun, and I mean, the exchange between her and the pregnant wife at the beginning was just note perfect, I thought. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. This chick is gonna piss off, your wife.
Yeah, Prego Karen. Okay, so I've got Saida Erica Ekulona, who's playing Nardali Eula. This is her 4th appearance in SVU.
Yeah, we've already seen her in Munch by Benson. She was a Brooklyn SVU, not SVU. Brooklyn SVU.
Yeah, she was Brooklyn SVU.
Yeah, when Elliot was fucking up her case with the Nick Chinland episode.
Yeah, when he was fucking up everything in Execution.
Yeah.
That's the one we covered back in episode 37 of Munch My Benson, which is called Our Job is to Sit There and Enjoy It. She has won multiple awards, including an Obie for playing Mama Nady in the Pulitzer Prize winning play Ruined, a production that also featured William Jackson Harper and Chris Chalk in supporting roles. We just saw Chris Chalk a couple episodes ago. She got her MFA from the Guthrie program at the University of Minnesota. So she joins Aya Cash, an alumnus from that program. She popped up as an ADA in the newest season of Better Call Saul. She had recurring roles in Kevin Can Wait and Impastor. And she played the nurse in Royal Tenenbaums.
I don't have IMDb Pro, so I couldn't check out her real bio on her agent's page, but I don't know if you track that down at all to see.
She is American.
She is, okay. Yeah, I didn't get her full bio.
Yeah, it didn't say where she grew up, but it was East Coast, and it was to like US Coast.
Okay.
She does dialogue coaching for South African accents.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Given her name,
Yeah.
not being able to do any of the research,
Yeah.
I would assume that her parents were immigrants.
That would make sense. In South Africa would make sense. I mean, you got probably multiple different accents, and yeah, that's interesting.
She was doing her MFA at University of Minnesota from 93 to 95.
Okay.
So, or maybe it was 92 to 95. So that places her, maybe her parents were able to get out of South Africa or wherever.
Yeah.
South Africa, we're kind of assuming, given the fact that she does South African accent coaching. Next up would be Eric Lang, who's playing Bryce Kelton.
Mm-hmm.
He was CIA Station Chief Bill Steckner in Narcos. Pretty recognizable character actor here. He was a Critics' Choice nominee for Best Supporting Actor for playing Lyle Mitchell in Escape from Dannemora. He had a big recurring part in The Bridge, which I won't get into if you haven't seen it. But The Bridge is pretty good. He also had recurring parts in this first season of Perry Mason. He was also in The Man in the High Castle, Waco, and Lost in recurring parts.
And a shitload of stuff.
He has. I've got 2 more bigger ones and then 2 more small ones.
Okay.
So we've got Lindsay Krause, who's playing Judge Andrews. This is one of 7 appearances of hers as Judge Andrews, and it's the first time we've seen her. She was nominated for a Best Supporting Actress Oscar for her turn in Places in the Heart, supporting Sally Field, I believe. She was Lily in Slapshot. She starred in House of Games, which was written and directed by her then husband, David Mamet.
Weird.
I'm assuming Adam's been waiting for me to get to this one. She was Professor Walsh in season 4 of Buffy.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. And then she had supporting parts in The Verdict, which is fucking amazing. If you've never seen The Verdict, it's so fucking good. She was also in Prince of the City and The Insider. And then the next bigger part that we've got, the kind of last one that was a recognizable actor, is Ned Eisenberg playing defense attorney Roger Kressler. Yeah. This is one of 24 appearances of his on SVU, 22 of which have come as this character. Yeah. The only other one we've seen him in, however, was in Payback, the pilot, which we covered in our first episode, Dick Wolf being Dick Wolf, where he was playing defense attorney Jerry Kleinert, a differently named defense attorney who was defending the weirdo who pulled his junk out in court and then called Stabler a putz head. Yeah. So he was also a recurring defense attorney on the original series as a different character. He has been a character actor since like 1980. You've seen him in a fuckload of stuff, probably always playing a goddamn lawyer. He also co-founded the Naked Angels Theater Company with Fisher Stevens back in 1987.
Weird. Yeah.
Like they sort of morphed into looking like one another.
Yeah, they kind of do. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Lastly, I've got Jonathan C. Kaplan playing Daniel Stegman, her neighbor. This is his second of 3 appearances in SVU and his second Munch My Benson appearance. Okay. Having first appeared as Sergeant Richie Russo in Beautiful Frame, which we covered back in Munch My Benson episode 24, The Thin Blue Line Between Order and Suburban Police. He was nominated for a Tony for Best Actor in a Featured Role back in 1992 when he was 12 for his turn in Falsettos. The only other thing I think I've ever seen him in was he was in 4 episodes of Boy Meets World.
Weird.
As a teen.
I've got one other one besides those. Sean Cullen, who played the ICE agent. Brett Trask. He's been in 5 episodes of SVU, 3 as this character, 2 as others. Been in a bunch of other things as well. He's the FBI director in Mindhunter. Yeah. That's the one that I recognized him from. Oh my God, he really nails the fucking ICE shithead.
Yeah, for sure. And then my last one is Elizabeth Flax, who's playing ER nurse Carrie Hitchens. She's back. She is the one who had the great line, "Welcome to Thursday night in the Knife and Gun Club, detectives." Yeah. From Abomination, which we covered back in episode 29. I was going to say the guy scared stiff.
Yeah.
And she's been in 15 episodes. I closed her page out, but it's somewhere around there. Like, she's definitely been in a bunch of episodes.
Yeah. She's the go-to, like, sassy nurse when they need one.
Yes.
I would say that I think that all of them did really well. I thought most of the guests were really spot on. From the couple to the fucking skeezy neighbor to, the rapist, I guess.
Yeah, rapist first and foremost. He was skeezy, but also rapist. Yeah. I got a lot of notes about... Well, I got some notes about his stuff. But. Yeah. Should we dive into the Congo?
Yeah, so I don't know how long to make this because I can talk about this for a very long time. But of course, the Democratic Republic of Congo plays a big part in this episode. The main character, I'm forgetting her name.
Are you going to talk about Congo, the Michael Crichton book?
I should. Nardali, that's her name.
Yeah, Nardali Eula.
Nardali is she says she's from the eastern provinces. Now, the Congo is a vast area, the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's a vast area in Central Africa that was essentially home to many different ethnic groups over a very long period of time. Many different nations probably existed there. But in the late 19th century, Henry Morton Stanley did an expedition up the Congo River being the second largest river in Africa. It's a massive river. Now, the thing about it, though, is that close to the sea, it's filled with rapids and it loses tons of altitude. And so you can't actually sail a ship like a big river like, say, the Nile or the Amazon. You can sail a ship up it from the mouth all the way up to far up it. But you can't do that with the Congo River because of these rapids that are close to the sea. Now, what Stanley did was lead an expedition into the bush and discovered that you didn't have to go very far, and you could have shipping on the river above where those rapids ended. And so this is where they built a town called Leopoldville, which is now called Kinshasa. And they were able to exploit this vast area that was basically the drainage basin of the Congo River.
Wait, Stanley's British, correct?
Well, he's kind of a legendary charlatan. Yeah, he's originally English, but he served in the United States Civil War on the side of the Confederacy, but then eventually later was on the side of the Union too. So he's kind of like was an adventurer. He's lived most of his life in the United States when he wasn't doing his adventures overseas, but he did multiple adventures through Africa. And in this case, he was working on behalf of the Belgian royal family.
Hence Leopoldville.
Yeah, hence Leopoldville. And in the Berlin Conference of 1885, which basically set the borders for Africa. Now, this is a weird thing about Africa. Every other continent essentially has a different path to having borders. So in Asia and Europe, borders are fought over for thousands of years, generations, back and forth, all sorts of things. In the Americas, of course,
or in Asia, specifically Asia Minor, they're drawn randomly by the fucking Brits.
Well, sure, that happens too later on. But in Africa, 100% of the borders are randomly drawn, basically during the Berlin Conference of 1885. And it determined where the French zones were going to be, where the British zones were going to be, where the German zones were going to be, and where this one weird place was going to be owned by one guy, King Leopold II of Belgium. He essentially turned the whole country over to a rampaging band of fucking scumbags who exploited it primarily for rubber. And he was basically a mercenary. There's a cat on my roof. How did that... I'm sorry. This cat just jumped. Hopefully it's eating rats that are up there. Anyways, so the first brush that Congo had with colonialism was terrible because Leopold's personal holding was used as basically a rubber exploitation center. Famously, people's hands were cut off if they did not harvest enough rubber from the trees there, and ears and all sorts of grisly, awful things. And it was so awful that it was really one of the first big humanitarian campaigns. This was in the early 1900s, a campaign to stop the atrocities in the Congo. And so in 1908, it was turned over to the nation Belgium, which then kept it until 1958. In 1958, the process of turning it over to its own citizens was begun.
The Congolese, correct?
Yes, the Congolese. And that didn't go through until 1961. Before we get there, there's another country that's going to factor into this, Rwanda. Now, Rwanda was not actually given to any European power during that Berlin conference, though shortly thereafter it was claimed by the Germans. And the Germans, as part of their way of ruling the country, determined that one ethnicity, the Tutsis, would rule over everybody else. Tutsis about 15% of the population. Now, it's really kind of dumb and esoteric as to what Tutsis and Hutus are. And it's not very important, but they basically handed out identification cards to everybody that said you're a Tutsi or you're a Hutu, and that's more important for later on. These ethnicities are not bound by these borders, and in fact, many Tutsis in particular originally would have been more cattle herders. So the Hutus in Rwanda were more farmers, more sedentary, whereas the Tutsis were cattle herders, and they were a little bit more migratory. And many of them settled on the eastern shore of Lake Kivu, which is now in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And so you call them the Banyamulenge. And they come into the story a little bit later. Eventually, after World War I, Rwanda became another Belgian territory, and they too gained independence when everything was becoming independent around 1960. Back to the Congo. So after independence in the Congo, shit hits the fan hard fast. The first guy who gets elected president in Congo is a real rabble-rouser, a guy who actually gives a shit about his own country and doesn't want to just rape it for its own resources, a guy named Patrice Lumumba. Total world historical badass, this guy. Really cool guy. Actually would have done a great job if he weren't executed by the CIA a few years later. Now, he was executed during a thing, it was called the Congo Crisis. So after Congolese...
Wait. Was the CIA assassinating democratically elected world leaders through the 60s?
Yeah, they sure were. That was one of their things.
And I mean, it didn't stop there, obviously. It started in the 50s, but...
Sure, yeah.
Good times.
So Lumumba was assassinated as part of a big crisis that had ripped through the Congo right after independence. One of the provinces called Katanga, which is the most mineral-rich province, was essentially coerced into breaking away by Belgian capitalists. Yeah. So basically, a bunch of scumbags from, like the De Beers Diamond Corporation and others like them hired a bunch of European mercenaries to go to Katanga and set up their own mercenary army to fight against the new Congolese Republic.
Of course.
And it was a big crisis. It sucked in the Soviet Union and the United States and the British and the French, and everybody had sort of shifting sides about who they were supporting and in which exactly when they were supporting somebody. But during the course of this, Lumumba was assassinated and a guy, Joseph Mobutu, took power with the support of the CIA. Now, he renamed himself Mobutu Sese Seko.
Let me guess, was he more amenable to giving the United States and Europe their resources at a discounted rate?
Yes.
As long as he was able to do whatever the fuck he wanted?
Basically is exactly right.
It's almost like this has happened in other places.
In the course of this, one of the British, most likely British Secret Services, assassinated the UN Secretary General in very suspect circumstances. So another badass, Dag Hammarskjöld, who was the UN Secretary General, was flying between various places in Africa to try to negotiate a conclusion to this crisis. And in the course of that, his plane was straight up shot down, which killed 15 people.
I'm assuming that is where the assassination of Alex English's character in Amazing Grace and Chuck is inspired by.
Most likely, yeah. So blowing up airplanes in Africa is gonna come back in a minute. But anyways, Dag Hammarskjöld died, and Utan, the guy who became the next Secretary General. Great names. All the Secretary Generals until I don't even know what the present one's name is. Mobutu Sese Seko takes power, and essentially the country is run like your classic kleptocracy after that. He enriched himself at the expense of his country and allowed whatever minerals needed to flow out of Katanga to flow without any pseudo-communist rabble-rousers getting in the way. So this is how Mobutu came to power, and Mobutu ran the country not very well for a very long time. Now...
Not very well.
Now... Eventually, you get to 1994. And in 1994, on April 6th, 1994, the president of Rwanda, has these two major ethnic groups, and they had already been fighting in between them on multiple different occasions. But he was flying back from a conference to try to negotiate a settlement to this conflict. His plane was shot down as it was landing in Kigali, the capital of Rwanda. Now, who shot it down? No one really knows. I put my money on his own fucking wife being behind shooting him down. So his wife, his name is Juvenal Habyarimana. His wife was Agatha Habyarimana. She was one of the main figures in a group called the Akuza, not Yakuza, the Akuza, which was a Hutu nationalist. They were like the inner circle of the Hindu nationalist elite. And it was her brother, and a couple other people, including the heads of the Interahamwe. The Interahamwe is almost analogous to the Hitler Youth, basically, like a pseudo-militia of rabid psychopaths. If they were white and had the fashy haircuts and wore Hawaiian shirts. You could kind of imagine them on, this past couple months in Washington. The difference between Rwanda and, the Alex Jones supporters is that they had a radio station that drummed up these people into committing, anyways, let me stop. So after the president of Rwanda's plane is shot down, that is essentially the signal for the Rwanda genocide to start. There's a Rwandan army, the FAR, but the main force behind the Rwanda genocide was the Interahamwe. The Interahamwe was like a youth militia group that was heavily influenced by this radio station that was essentially just really shocking stuff. But to me, the scariest thing about the Rwanda genocide is many people grow up thinking that what happened during World War II with the Nazis and the Holocaust is something unique that could never happen again and is different than any place else. But what you see in Rwanda, I feel more similarities between the United States and Rwanda than I do between the United States and Germany in the Weimar Republic era. And it terrifies me to no end. And I've thought this since 1998 or whenever, when I started getting really horrified by this shit. But essentially, you had media getting people so radicalized that they were going out and grabbing their neighbors out of their houses and hacking them to death with machetes, purchased at zero cost from the French, who for some reason were trying to get a leg up on the British in Africa in 1994. Because
that's baffling.
This is it's so complicated and it's so upsetting that it's hard for me to really nail it down. So in Rwanda, you have between 500,000 and 1 million people die in the course of 100 days. Most of them are killed without guns because bullets would be too expensive to kill this many people that quickly.
Yeah.
And so most of them are killed with machetes, with hand grenades, with farm implements. And mostly, a lot of times, it was just their fucking neighbors, people's neighbors, dragging them out of their houses. And this was not necessarily with the explicit support, but definitely with the implicit support of France, who was in the process of trying to shore up their position in Africa vis-a-vis their relationship with the British, which is very complicated. And I don't understand why on earth they would do such a thing. The French, after this, let many of the worst, kind of the leaders of the genocide escape to France, where they live until about 2010, when finally some of them started being arrested. But many of them did not suffer very many consequences.
Are they now hanging out at The Hague?
This is another thing we'll get to in a second. Okay. So at this point, when the shit starts hitting the fan in April 1994, the Tutsi militia, which was called the RPF, they were hanging out in Uganda primarily, and they'd been there for a better part of 10 years. They were led by a guy named Paul Kagame. At this point, Kagame and the RPF invade Rwanda and pretty quickly kick the shit out of the FAR. That's the Hutu army. And RPF is really one of the most effective fighting forces in human history. So they knock the shit out of the Interahamwe and the Hutu militias in Rwanda, forced them across the border. Most went to Zaire. At the time, it was called Zaire. And they went to Zaire, which is now the Congo. They took with them lots and lots of people that didn't need to go. So people who were fleeing retribution, essentially, from the Tutsis. And so over 1.5 million people went to these refugee camps in Zaire around the town of Goma, which is just on the border between Congo and Rwanda, and stayed there for a number of years. Things were kind of heated. There would be cross-border raids here and there. And then in 1996... the Rwandans, which is a very small country, invade Zaire, which is a massive country, to try to root out these Interahamwe militiamen that are still in these camps, which sparks the First Congo War. Now, they start beating the ever-living fuck out of the militias that are there, and the Zairean army tries to stop them, and they, too, get beaten to hell and back by the Rwandans. Now, the Rwandans, they're trying to track down all the Interahamwe, and in the course of it, they're committing some pretty massive war crimes themselves, but they're going to take over the whole country, and so they need to find a patsy to take over the country with them. So they find this guy, Laurent Kabila, who'd been hiding out in the bush since the 60s. He had been on the kind of Lumumbist side during the Congo crisis. He, in fact, even served with Che Guevara when Che Guevara was sent to the Congo to do some fighting. But Kabila is put in charge of this army, and as they make their way westwards across Congo, and they make their way all the way to Kinshasa, install Kabila in power. But Kabila wasn't exactly a Rwandan puppet the way they wanted him to be. And after a couple years, shit starts popping off in the eastern provinces again, in Nord Kivu. That's the one that abuts Rwanda. So a new conflict starts in the most kind of mind-boggling military operation you can imagine. So there's a sort of low-level conflict that pops off, and then some Rwandan army guys hijack 3 planes, fly the planes to the far western end of Congo, so all the way to the Atlantic coast, and land at a military base there, take over the military base, and in the process, the whole country goes to shit in a total shitstorm. And it drags in all these different actors. So on one side, you've got Rwanda, you've got Burundi, and you've got Uganda versus the Congo, led by Kabila, with Angola, Zaire, Namibia, Zambia, Sudan is involved at one point. Libya is involved in one way or another. South Africa is involved not with military, but with kind of political pressure. Basically, most of the continent is involved in this conflict, and it goes on for a very long time. It starts in 1998. It's really not fully over yet. In 2001, Kabila was assassinated by one of his bodyguards. There was a peace deal in 2003, which pretty much put the end to large-scale fighting, but there have been multiple militia groups representing multiple different sides that have still been around. So there are pieces of the Interahamwe that are still out there. They're called the FDLR, which she mentions, the Force Démocratique pour Libération de Rwanda. Apologize for my French. They're still out there, though. This conflict has been going on for over 20 years at this point. And so not very many of the genocidaires, as they're called, are still out there. Now, Interahamwe means those who work together. It's based in the Hutu genocidal language, so the work to them was killing the cockroaches, who were the Tutsis, the Insinyezi. It's pretty dark shit. But yes, they are still out there. There's many other groups that are still out there. The conflict that they're kind of really talking about in 2008, 2009, 2010, when this episode was filmed, and when the allegations of mass rapes were really coming into, because rape has been a part of this conflict for a long time. It's part of every conflict. It's why you shouldn't launch wars against countries that haven't done anything to you. Yeah. Because bad things happen, including mass rapes and murders. But over the course of the Congo conflict, the Second Congo War, something like 5 million people have died. In 2011 alone, there were 400,000 reported rapes. It's horrible shit. Really, really horrible shit.
And that's reported.
That's reported.
The actual figure is probably 10 times that.
Yeah, of course. And it's hard to know because you have to wonder about the kind of people that get up in arms about foreign issues often have an agenda. And when it comes to Africa, it means that somebody wants us to intervene on behalf of somebody else. And oftentimes that ends up having knock-on effects that are not great. I believe our country does not have a very good record of intervening places when we don't know what the hell's going on. In fact, the whole crisis with Rwanda in 1994 can be traced to Europeans and Americans either intervening or not intervening without really understanding the facts on the ground. And it's kind of a classic problem. But that conflict was really around a group called M23. That 2009 was around M23, which was a basically Rwandan-backed militia group. The Rwandans wanted to keep these militias operating across the border so that they could protect themselves from these rump FDLR groups that are out there. M23 was the most powerful of these groups. The leader was a guy named Laurent Nkunda, and there's another guy named Bosco Ntaganda. Both of them would be in the news from time to time. Bosco Ntaganda was actually tried by the ICC for war crimes, including enlisting children in his activities. His was involving sexual slavery of civilians. There are a few like that. Now, the problem with the war crimes tribunals is that they always seem to get the smaller fish. They don't get the big fish.
Of course not.
So the conflict in...
The big fish have the money because they've fucking pilfered everything they could from the country that they're running, or from the cause, if they're not running the country, that they have enough money to go into fucking hiding wherever the fuck they want.
Of course. And sorry for this kind of rambling stuff, but yeah, the rich people always get away with it, whether it's the people that organized the genocide in Rwanda, or Paul Kagame, the current president of Rwanda, who's probably personally responsible for many of the war crimes that happened in Congo over the next 26 years. none of them are ever going to see any consequences for this. But
it's just villainous lieutenants.
Yeah, and if you look at the ICC's record, not very many non-black people have ever been tried and convicted in the ICC. In fact, I can't think of anyone.
Color me shocked.
Yeah, and it's definitely not to the ICC's credit that that's the case. I guess you did have Serbia, but that was not the ICC. That was different. I don't think that very many people are going to want to sign on to it if the only people that are ever going to see justice are admittedly terrible people, but African terrible people, not Europeans, not Americans, not Chinese. A few things. The resource exploitation, real quick, it definitely was a part of the Congo conflict this whole time. One thing famously, so tantalum, which she mentions, is coltan. It's a rare earth material. It goes in cell phones and computer switches and things like that. It famously, in 1998, the price of it rose massively because the PlayStation 2 was released. And when the PlayStation 2 was released, there was not enough global supply of this stuff. And so the Rwandan-backed militias did mine and sell massive amounts of it. In fact, Rwanda became the world's leading supplier of coltan for about 6 months in 1998. Rwanda itself has no coltan deposits in it.
Yeah, of course.
But almost as soon as people realized what was going on, like most things, it's actually easier to mine it in Australia in using, massive strip mining than it is to like force child soldiers to rip that stuff out of the ground. And so the real exploitation comes either from slavery of people or, your classic diamonds and gold and shit like that. And that's...
Why are you knocking child labor?
As long as they do it for free, it's fine, as my child will soon be doing with dishes.
Yes. So, yeah, everything's fucked.
Yeah, no, and the Democratic Republic of Congo is really fucked. It's a sad place.
Yeah.
Nord Kivu, where she's talking about, is a beautiful place. It was called the Switzerland of Africa by the Belgians when they first started settling there. It has mountain meadows is how I describe it. It doesn't have, it's not jungly. It's almost looks like tea plantations in India is what the landscape looks like. I think it was in 1998 when all this shit was popping off, a volcano erupted in Goma, which is the big city out there. It split the town in half. Not only do you have these people that have personally slaughtered hundreds, if not thousands of their neighbors living side by side with you, you've also got an erupting volcano next door. So really a wild fucking place. So yeah, let's get to the episode.
Okay. My first episode note is Prego Karen says she only cut her hand. Well, now your neighbor's dead. I hope you fucking feel awful.
I'm sorry, but I have to kind of side with Karen on this one, because if my wife was spending this much time with a man that was that attractive, I would be very jealous. If a man that was as attractive as...
Diora.
Yeah, Diora Baird. Yes, exactly.
Okay, so the Lainie character doesn't make a ton of sense to me. No one's going to say Diora Baird isn't a smoke show.
Yeah.
If I looked that good, I probably wouldn't wear much either.
Yeah.
And I'm not going around boning a bunch of people and probably wouldn't then either.
But neither was she.
Yeah, I know. That said, neighbor Dan, with a jealous bitch of a wife, says she went through a couple bad breakups in the past year, and it would seem like Jason might not be counted amongst those breakups when he says this coming out of the first commercial break.
Yeah.
Moreover, when they bring her back to her apartment, she disrobes right in front of Elliot.
Yeah.
Moving right past the fact that this must be Stabler's best day at work ever, does it really make sense that her later revelation that she's only had sex with 3 people, it doesn't track?
Well, she
does not.
She has
sense.
histrionic personality disorder. That's what Wong says.
Yeah. She's 24. She has a box of condoms and a set of furry handcuffs at her bedside that we're apparently supposed to take as proof that she's a nymphomaniac.
I know. The box of condoms is proof that she's a nymphomaniac. That's some... I don't know.
I tried to go back to the drawer that Elliot was putting the furry handcuffs back in, and I was trying to see if like there were crazy vibrators or fucking strap-on.
No, there were no dongs in
and
there.
I mean, maybe there was a vibrator, but it's like, who cares? That doesn't mean anything either.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but like a box of condoms being evidence of her slutness is
Yeah.
straight up Catholic Church propaganda.
But the timeline doesn't make any sense with me. She's had a couple bad breakups in the last year, and Jason's not one of them. Were we to take this to mean that she only had sex with 3 people and all 3 are this year?
Or you could think that if she does have histrionic personality disorder, everybody she casually meets, she's madly in love with, even though they barely know that she exists.
To be fair to her, the Jason situation seems like, oh, that guy's a fucking dickhead. And I mean, if they've known each other for years.
Yeah, that guy seemed like a total tool.
Yeah, she finally lets him bone her. He should be grateful.
Yeah, exactly. No, he wasn't. He looked like a tool bag, and he was going to, like, you know, revenge porn her shit, basically, is what he was threatening.
Yeah.
Going back to the pregnant woman, though, she's going into labor, Josh. Of course she's going to be mad at her fucking husband for, you know...
For helping a raped woman?
Well, okay. She didn't know that. She didn't know that.
Also, they get to the hospital. And she is still walking around. She's like, not that in labor.
It's true.
You know, like, the baby is not like about to be dangling from a fucking umbilical cord. Like, that is not what's going on.
Yeah. She would not be waiting in the fucking ER waiting room if she was that in labor. That's not how that works.
No. Yeah. Like, she is super in labor in the apartment. And then what?
Yeah.
Does anyone in the unit believe Lainie before they get their eyewitness
Dude,
corner?
I know. It's brutal. I mean, Finn, maybe.
Yeah, he's
Finn
the
and
only
Benson, maybe, but they're skeptical. Munch and Elliot, not at all.
Like, this is one of the most egregious episodes where they blame the victim for their perception of her lifestyle and end up dead wrong about pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Like, maybe she drunkenly throws an ash can through the front door of her apartment building to get in after hours, and maybe she gets a little attached to one-and-done drive-by boners from her past, but she's not that bad other than being a little flighty.
You know, I don't know. Her performance rang pretty true. I've had an experience with somebody who was not like this, I guess, but a similar personality disorder, and
I don't know who that would be.
And I would say it rang true for me.
Did you have PTSD?
A little bit. I loved.
We're not going to get into that.
When they're walking around the building interviewing, I loved the scene where they're interviewing all the neighbors. You've got the elderly Chinese lady and the fucking punk ass kid. What'd she do? What's it worth to you?
Yeah. Like, Stabler just wants to beat the shit out of that kid. I love then right after this where Stabler's rearing up to kick down the door only to have it swing open and Artley's standing behind it. Like, he is geared up. His leg is drawn back. He is about to fucking really go at it, and we've seen him kick doors open
many times.
We know he can do it.
Another thing we should be
steel doors.
In addition to the number of people, the bodies that are dropped, we should be tracking the Elliot doors knocked in.
Well, we got blue balled here.
Absolutely.
Okay, so when the unit's trying to figure out what's going on, Wong diagnoses Lainie as a possible histrionic personality disorder sufferer. I suppose I did not do any research on this, but I have the Wikipedia page pulled up.
Yeah, I did some research. It's not. I mean, it is kind of what you think it is.
Oh, if you did research,
I mean, I didn't do deep research. I just read the DSM. Basically, it's a pervasive pattern of excessive emotionality and attention seeking, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by 5 or more of the following. 1 is either uncomfortable in situations which he or she is not the center of attention. Interaction with others is often characterized by inappropriate, sexually seductive, or provocative behavior. Displays rapidly shifting and shallow expressions of emotion. Consistently uses physical appearance to draw attention to oneself, has a style of speech that is excessively impressionistic and lacking in detail, shows self-dramatization, theatricality, and exaggerated expressions of emotion, is easily suggestible, i.e. influenced by others or circumstances, considers relationships to be more intimate than they actually are. So
there's a mnemonic.
There is.
That can be used to remember the characteristics of histrionic personality disorder.
Yeah.
And it is praise me.
It is, yeah.
So provocative behavior, relationships are considered more than they actually are. Attention seeking, influenced easily by others or circumstances, speech, wants to impress, lacks detail.
Yeah.
E is emotional liability, shallowness. M, makeup, like personality used to draw attention to self, and then, or physical appearance used to draw attention to self, and then exaggerated emotions. So yeah, those are praise me. Reading down the line of these characteristics, I'm like, oh fuck, I think that's me.
Yeah. It's a lot more common in women than in men, at least this diagnosis, but who knows?
So this is just latent misogyny.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's kind of funny. I gotta hand it to Wong. He gets to drop in he's probably on set for 3 hours that whole week, and he's getting a check for it.
Yeah.
Good on him.
Yeah,
I mean, he came in,
good work.
Probably was already wearing what he was gonna wear, and they just had to do hair and makeup and let him read that line.
Jack just walked in with a 30-pack of hams that was delivered by her sister. So that's cool.
Nice. Hold up. I'm going to get one too.
Oh, yeah, do it. You've got to be parched after that
I'll be right back.
hour-long diatribe about the Congo.
I felt like it was very rambling, and I apologize for that.
I'm joking.
All right, and I'm back.
Thank you, Lauren. Okay. Can you invoice us? Now I'm drinking a Hams.
Oh, nice. I'm drinking a can of Bliss. One of the reasons I had that Dale's Pale is that Oscar Blues does like a 15-pack variety pack, and it's all the beers in it are totally fine.
Yeah, cool. What's that variety?
This one's called Can of Bliss. It is a citrus IPA. It's nice.
Oh, Cannibliss. Okay, I get it. So it tastes like weed.
Oh, yeah. I guess that's the idea. Yeah. I mean, sort of. It's got that, like,
which a lot of IPAs sort of have
that kind of fresh, hoppy weed smell. I think it would smell a lot more like weed if you pour it into a glass than if you just drink it out of the can.
Okay, so where were we? Oh, we just finished histrionic personality
disorder. So yeah, histrionic personality disorder. They talk to all the people in the apartment complex. This is basically where they find the horrible bald man across the courtyard who's just sitting there watching the police through their telescope who just committed rape.
That's a really bad move. Really bad move.
I mean, everything about that guy is pretty sloppy though. His haircut, his
window and curtains.
Yeah.
To get a look at him looking through the telescope, through the windows and curtains, you'd think he was spying on Lainie from a third world country.
I know.
Like, it straight up looked like war-torn Berlin in, like...
Yeah, it definitely did look like a scene in, what was that, The Lives of Others? That movie about the Stasi? Yeah. Uh-huh. But this guy, to me, it was kind of like a Rear Window reference, only in this version of Rear Window, absolutely. Jimmy Stewart did it.
I mean, he is a perv.
Yeah, he's totally a perv.
He's always the perv in the Hitchcock movies.
Yeah, and in real life, he is a reactionary scumbag, but...
Also, apparently had a massive dong.
Really? Jimmy Stewart was hung?
Yeah, hung like a horse. Like, maybe not Milton Berle hung, but apparently he was very hung. You're welcome. I heard that on Unspooled.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, is this what you learn in Hollywood when you're actually there?
No, I wish. So I loved Lainie's outfit when she's going into court.
Is that the man who raped me? I told you he had one of those pot bellies.
And I told you that I would come and get you when I needed you. And what are you wearing? We went over this.
You said to look nice. Don't I look good?
I think she had a little more Sunday school in mind.
Lainie, you looked great. Don't listen to Cap.
I mean, flaunt it if you got it, right?
And she's got it.
Now, okay, so real quick, though. So the rapist theory of the crime is that it was a violent rape fantasy. I think evidence in this episode shows that he's full of shit and is a terrible guy. However, in Munch My Benson, we've seen multiple cases of violent rape fantasies playing out in public stairwells. So it's not out of the question.
There's just one. There's just one in the stairwell.
There's just one in the stairwell. Yeah.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah, it's not out of the question.
It's not out of the question.
But they very quickly both acquiesced and were like, no. This is consensual. Usually when the second party says it wasn't consensual, that wasn't consensual.
Generally, like large stab wounds on your hand is a sign that it wasn't consensual.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Honestly, what I've been told about the Army Hammer controversy in recent weeks.
Oh, he's a cannibal.
Yeah, but it's not that cannibalism is bad in of itself. It's that non-consensual cannibalism is bad.
Yeah.
That's one of the most online takes I've ever heard, and I'm a big fan of it.
So when Cabot tells Lainie to tough it out, it seemed to highlight that undercurrent through this episode, that women are threatened by Lainie's animal magnetism and want to assume the worst in her.
Yeah.
So it's just fucking jealousy run amok.
All over the place. The only one who wasn't jealous of her was Nardole. You know, Nardole, who rescued her and who is kind of a badass.
Yeah.
Now, I would say that the problem with this episode is this was all just a frame.
Oh, wait. Can we just highlight 1 second about her outfit going into court? Cabot says, Monica, I need your coat. Yeah. And so Monica, who is named here but does not have a line and therefore is not credited. Yeah. Whoever you are, I wish you got a line. Yeah. You looked like you were ready to speak if called upon, so I salute you.
Absolutely. And Monica she played the part of somebody that works at the courthouse really well. I totally bought her performance.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't know what her job was. I don't know if she's a clerk or a paralegal or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I want to know more about you, Monica.
Email the show. Rate and review, yes, Monica.
Please. Yeah. Give us the backstory you worked out for this. But yes, rate and review the podcast after.
Now, to be fair, I don't think that dress is exactly what your lawyer would want you wearing to court, though.
So I'm not a doctor, but the fandom wiki says that the timeline from when Lainie first went to the hospital to when she dies doesn't really track with MRSA.
Lainie is not the kind of person that dies from MRSA, A, and B, that's not how you die from MRSA from what I understand. I watched a good Frontline about MRSA a few years ago. It's a terrible thing, and it's a big problem because we've overprescribed antibiotics in the past, and so now there are antibiotic-resistant strains. But this happens to people that are already sick and already on lots of antibiotics. And it's basically they're in ICU, barely alive often. And these other strains start taking over. Apparently, like MRSA bacteria they exist in lots of people's noses. They're around, but they don't weaponize themselves unless your immune system is fairly fucked. Now, once they do that, it's very hard. But it's a weeks, months kind of thing, not a 2 days, and she's dropping dead in the mid-sentence. You know, that's not my understanding of how that works. Yeah. I also think when you raise the scepter of necrotizing fasciitis, I don't know if you're aware of what that generally looks like in people, but so it's basically when your flesh-eating bacteria, that's the other word for it, is necrotizing fasciitis. It causes some of the nastiest shit to break out on people's skin. We're talking like weird purple blisters, oozing ulcerous sores. Makeup could have really gone to town with her like whole body being covered with just cancerous, awful sores. Yeah. Like they really could have done some fun shit there. Even when she's dying, she's still gorgeous. They could have made her look horrifying if they really wanted to. And I feel it's a missed opportunity.
So Cabot is so clearly jealous of Lainie's animal magnetism that she refuses to believe that Lainie could even be dying. Yeah. Even after the doctor says that the infection has already invaded the chest cavity. You're just like, really, Cabot? I mean, clearly Cabot is threatened and feels that Benson might.
But I mean, I think it's fairly clear that, you know, Lainie has a thing with Elliot, not with Benson. There's no connection between Benson and Lainie.
It was Stabler's best day ever.
She held his hand and took her top off right in front of him, and then came out wearing the shortest kimono I've ever seen.
Great kimono.
Even without the top off, just the kimono alone would be one of the best days of his job.
Wardrobe was really doing a good job this episode.
But are we at the date night yet? No, well, we're at the...
No, not quite. Not because we have to sit through the horrors perpetrated upon Nardole.
Yes.
That was some dark shit.
The first round of horrors, which talking about her...
Yeah, because then it gets even more graphic in court,
when they talk about...
And you're just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You know, the combination of them, you're just like, a gun stuck inside her?
So these were definitely both things that were very publicized in that time. I remember this.
Yeah.
And definitely happened in large amounts, of course. Even one instance of either one of those things, a 5-year-old or a fucking gun, is horrifying. But definitely
all of it together
were heavily publicized to kind of talk about how horrible this fucking shit is. But still, this is...
What show on network TV gives this fucking big?
I mean, Frontline does, I guess, but that's about it.
Do they say that the gun got stuck inside her sex?
They wouldn't say it like that, but they would say that. Yeah, it's really bleak. It's so bleak. It's definitely on the not fun scale of problematic. That's for sure.
Miss Eula, do you see rape everywhere?
The women in my village were raped. The women in the militia camp were raped. I was raped repeatedly by so many men I lost count. They put their guns in my sex, and one of them pulled the trigger. I was in the hospital for over a year. It left me incontinent. So yes, I have seen rape everywhere. That is how I know that girl was raped.
I mean, it works. It's effective.
It definitely
is
does.
a thing that's happening. That's so. Despite the fact that it's not fun, it's not like it's police brutality, not fun.
Yeah, it's different than that.
After Nardley is telling Cabot about what happened to her daughter, then Benson and Cabot have their date.
They're both really dressed up nicely.
I'm sure they're talking about how fucked the international courts are.
Yes.
And the Congo. How fucked the Congo
absolutely
is.
Be
but
a
it's
work.
still a pretty hot date. It's a hot date.
There's mood lighting. They're both really dressed up nicely. That Benson's wearing this kind of like bluish sheer top over a nice dress. Definitely something she wouldn't be wearing to work.
No, this is a romantic.
Cabot, I could see.
No, Cabot's top is also.
It's purple, but it could be. You could wear that to court. If you had a jacket over that, I could see that working. I buy Cabot wearing that.
I wish I had it queued up so I could rewind to see if Cabot's wearing a different top from when Nardley is.
I was just looking at the dates because they put a new card up right before the date, and it's 2 days after the last date. So I'm assuming it's supposed to be a couple days later. But yeah, they're at Drogon's pub. It is a very romantic place, apparently.
Is Drogon's pub a real place?
No, there's nothing there. I looked up all these. They're kind of all in Chelsea, kind of West Midtown. Nothing too exciting.
Then obviously Nardley testifies and Ice comes in. Abolish Ice.
Yeah, abolish Ice. Nice thing about this show is that this is making Ice the bad guy in early 2010.
Sure. Yeah, way before
this
it was
aired in March 2010. And Ice has been a problem since then. Ice was bad during Obama. It's still bad now. Haven't you noticed we're at war? Didn't notice that we were at war in the Eastern Congo. Didn't notice that.
Yeah, fuck off. Like, Interhamwe has any fucking interest in anything that we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. No.
What a dick bag.
We were big supporters of the RPF, so that's the current Rwandan government forces, but neither here nor there.
My last note is to add to the ignominy of having witnessed a rape and then getting sent off to ICE detention because she testified. Nardley also had to see Bryce's rape dick.
She did. She had to see Bryce's rape dick. With that hair and that bald spot. It was a sad sack piece of shit dick. The Ice guy, he just made my blood curdle. I'm just going back there.
Yeah, I didn't want to get too far into the Ice shit, but yeah, he sucked.
Yeah.
And
good on him because he's clearly playing it that way, and it was effective.
Yep.
Now, the thing is, the timeline for somebody quitting their career as an ADA and going to the Congo to do law, I guess, is a little unclear to me. There's definitely various NGOs or the International Criminal Court that maybe somebody with Cabot's skill set could go work for, but she's just going to get on a plane and go to the Congo and do some fucking law over there, it seems.
That's how it works in New York, Adam. You'll find out.
And that's not how driven, career-oriented people do things. I feel like Cabot got injected with a big fucking heaping pile of white savior complex and decided to go save the fucking world.
Yeah, it's like she was the lead in a fucking Spielberg movie.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you have any notes left, or can we get to?
I just loved how jealous Liv was.
Oh yeah,
at Cabot leaving, and then just like, and then when Cabot tells him, Liv's just like, what?
You realize that you would be risking your life. Does Alex know about this?
I told her. She understands. I was very touched by the sacrifice she is making.
What sacrifice?
She did not tell you.
Alex, is it true? I put in my papers. I'm taking a leave of absence.
What? Really?
Like, they just banged.
I mean, or,
They just banged. You know they just banged.
I mean, what were they doing on February 11th after their date night at Drogon's Pub?
This is right before Valentine's Day.
It is.
They clearly are ramping up towards a really great
romantic
weekend.
evening. I could imagine, Liv trying out some new recipes, something like that. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I like your Benbot delusions. It's nice.
I'm really in love with Benbot. Are we notesless?
I'm notesless. Yeah, I'm really notesless.
So let's get to ranking this fucker.
As you all know, we rank these every week. We have 4 criteria on which we judge these on a 10-point scale. So we do the quality, the guests, how problematic it was, and the depth and breadth of lives ruined. Now let's start with that one, because in the course of the episode itself, we see a few people's lives ruined, I would say. But how are we to factor in the literal tens of millions of people whose lives have been ruined by the course of the Second Congo War since 1997, Josh?
Yeah, it's really tough. Yeah. I think that Nartali is so granted at the end she's going to fight back, but obviously her life has been fucking destroyed.
Yeah.
We see a very immediate example of how that war has fucking ruined people.
In just the most upsetting way possible. I mean, this person's life has been ruined to a point that I could never even fucking imagine.
Oh, yeah.
In multiple different ways where her life has been fucking destroyed by this shit. They really let you stew in it on a couple different occasions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You are not going to have any misgivings about how fucking awful it is.
Yeah. So if anybody says Nord Kivu to you, you'll know what they're talking about. And what they're talking about is some fucking nightmarish shit. And so on that, it's got to be pretty high.
Yeah.
Even if the Lainie story is fairly run-of-the-mill for seasoned munch heads.
She dies. She is 24, should be okay, and dies from fucking MRSA. We've also got the bitch mom who's going to raise that kid.
And we got the dad who's going to have a problem with his bitch wife for the rest of that kid's life, because every time the dad does something wrong, the mom's going to remind him of, what happened.
And what was going on when she was going into labor.
Absolutely. Understandably, honestly. We've also got, we've got Elliot, who's never going to have that good of a day at work again. Ever.
Yeah. He is at peak. He is at the apex.
It's all downhill from here, bro.
Is down fucking hill.
We've also got Liv, who's just seeing the love of her life just going like, you know what? I'm not even going to tell you that I'm leaving the country and quitting my job. I'm not even telling you. And that's pretty fucked up, man.
It's a big bummer. I mean, I think we got to be like, it's got to be like an 8.
I was thinking 8. I was exactly thinking 8 because, of course, the Congo shit, as horrifying as it is, happens years before the events of this. Right. But still, we get to stew in it enough that it definitely factors in.
For sure.
Now, how problematic was it? Again, every time Nartali speaks, it's highly problematic. Yes. We also have the lawyer for the fucking rapist essentially saying that she wanted it. And
he keeps saying it.
Fucking problematic. He really does.
That's the entire defense.
He really does.
Is just she fucking wanted it. Because that's the only defense he's left
And also
with.
that this woman doesn't know what rape is pretty fucking offensive. And the fact that ICE is involved at all is very problematic to me. What else do we have that's problematic?
No one believing the victim.
None of them. Like, Munch's only line in the episode is basically to say that this victim is full of shit. He never has interviewed this victim.
I mean, fucking Wong is, diagnosing her as histrionic personality disorder, and he hasn't fucking talked to her.
That's exactly right.
It's all secondhand. Clearly, he wasn't available on all the days that he needed.
So this is pretty problematic, right? 7, 8, something in there.
Like at least a 7. Yeah.
I mean, that's where I feel it sits, because I think as awful as the details of Nardali's experiences are, they're not fun. And I think we do give points at the higher end of this scale for fun.
Yeah, that's where it would differentiate itself if it had been
now,
fun.
The shit with Lainie is fun, I would say. It is like...
Until she dies.
Until she just dies. She just falls over and dies.
She basically just falls over and dies.
Lainie returned to her home planet,
Yeah. Of smoking hot. Yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah. So I think it's a 7, right?
Yeah, I'm putting it as 7. Okay, the guests. I also think the guests are very good. I thought they were all
they are
excellent.
Really good.
Every one of them. Yeah. And they had to do some work. Like, Lainie was the whole first third of the episode, and Nardali's the whole second 2/3 of the episode, and they're both excellent.
And with shithead Magoo, the rapist, the raper,
yes.
he's really good as being a raper.
Yeah, and the ice guy is really good at being a fucking shithead.
And the couple who's never going to have another kid. Clearly.
I loved the I loved every line between them, where he's like, every time she needs a light bulb changed or to touch her bed, I never touched her bed.
Yeah, I never flipped her mattress. Yeah, and even the shithead defense attorney, he's good too.
I mean, we've seen him a lot. Like he's one of the better defense attorneys.
We've only seen him in one other
That's
episode.
crazy. This is the first time we've
for
seen...
Munch by Benson. You and I have... Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I checked all of them. He's been in 24 episodes, I believe, as defense attorney in every single one of them.
Because he's definitely one of the canonical...
At least in 23. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, along with Mr. Hargitay, he's like one of the canonical defense attorneys.
Well, and Delaney.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Delancey?
Delaney Williams, right? Now, I don't think any of them are like...
I mean, I think Diora Baird and Saida Erica Ecolona, I think they're both really fucking good and like actually memorable.
Yeah, and they're doing enough that even though neither one of them is, they're not Mark Paul Gosselaar or something, this episode only works because of them.
I can tell you I'd much rather watch Diora Baird than Mark Paul Gosselaar, but that's his...
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, they're not like...
Yeah.
You don't turn it on and you go, holy shit, it's that guy. It's a little different. But I thought they were all excellent.
But they also both have sort of more like nuanced, difficult roles that they have to...
Absolutely. Yeah, and they do. I think they both do it really well. I think this is at least an 8 also, right?
I think it's an 8, yeah.
And...
I wasn't sure we'd get here, but
no, but I think
this episode's going to end up rating really highly because of all that.
I went this way because I think this is the one where it's not, it kind of doesn't add up quite as much. It's not that good. Despite all of this shit, it's not that good.
It's kind of crazy. Like, I mean, it's average. I think it's a 5 probably, but like.
I think it might even be a 4 because it's so...
Oh no! See, I love how insane the turn is, and you go from this case to what the fuck, the Congo? Yeah. I really did not think it was going there.
We go from histrionic personality disorder to Vic dies from MRSA to the Congo. So one of the main cast members, like top of the board main cast members is gone. Yeah. That's the show.
She has left Liv for good.
High and dry. And she's not coming back. She's gone for like...
Until season 13.
She's gone for a couple years.
Yeah, season 13 premieres when she comes back. It's fucking hilarious. So you're pushing for a 4. I would say 5 or 6, so I think 5 is fair, right?
I think 5 is fair. Yeah, so I mean, it comes out, it's a 7. It's fairly high, but I think it's so bonkers that it deserves it because it's a really memorable episode. For one thing, I mean, Cabot leaves... Just
Stabler has his best day at work.
Yeah, Stabler. And the stuff with the Congo is so dark that you can't actually listen to that and not come away a little bit shook. So I think it warrants that. Let's see what's in the neighborhood. So I'm looking a little bit further back. The first Cheery Appleby episode we watched, Military Justice, came in at a 675, just below it. And Hunting Ground...
That's a better episode, but doesn't tick all the
exactly. It's kind of the opposite of this one. Hunting Ground, the Long Island serial killer one, came in at 725, which ticks some of the boxes really high, but
I think this is right there,
the guests weren't really in that. Yeah, no,
right.
And I feel like this was one that we will come back to because it was so crazy that when something like this happens again, we're going to bring it up. Or if there's any more Benbot action, then we're definitely going to think about it. I mean, and guys,
there'll be more Benbot action.
You might think that Josh and I are just being like lewd children in the bodies of 40-year-old men, but this scene with Benson and Cabot is, I know it's a thing, but this is a date that they're on. They're dressed for a date.
Yes.
And it is a romantic setting.
And there's no getting around that. This is a date.
They are not joined by anybody else. They're not sitting at the bar. It is a date, man. And good on them.
I feel like there's a candle at the table, but I may be
There's definitely that. No, I'm almost positive there was a candle because the way that they're both of their kind of like glowing. Liv had maybe a blue and Cabot had a purple top on. They were both kind of shimmering. They're both kind of shiny but dark, iridescent tops. It was lovely.
I feel you.
Beautiful scene.
Yeah, lovely.
So I think we can get out of this one and roll the next one.
Firing up the randomizer, which is powered by Flet over at episode.lol. Picking an episode, the tape's spinning.
Oh, I hate that part.
And we've got Chat Room from season 1, episode 18.
Interesting.
When a teenage girl comes into the squad room to tell the detectives that she was raped by a man she met on the internet, the detectives set up a special sting operation, but end up stepping on some highly placed toes as Munch plays the kid to net the big fish.
Interesting.
Okay, so I'm looking at the guest stars. Ben Shankman's in it. Paz de la Huerta is in it.
I'm really excited about this because I think it could be one of those...
If it's the episode I'm thinking it is, I'm super jazzed too, but I don't know if it is.
It's just like an episode from season 1 where they're really thinking about the internet is going to be a lot of fun. So
oh, yeah. Yeah, it's going to be like Lawnmower Man. All right.
Yeah, we got Maureen and Kathy Stabler. I think those are the only two Stablers we've got besides Elliot in this one. But yeah, should be a lot of fun. So I guess until next time, hopefully there'll be less world history lessons to get to in this one, but we'll see.
If it's the one I think it is, it actually might not be, and there might be more world history.
Excellent.
I could be wrong, though.
All right, guys. Well, we'll talk about that next week. So munch my Benson.
Yeah, munch all of our Bensons. And rate and review the podcast.
With this new technology, I can demonstrate it in a way in which it has never been possible to demonstrate it before. Animals can talk. Amy, could you come down here, please? Hello, Amy. Thank you for the flowers.
Peter. Hello, Peter.
Amy, how old are you?
Amy, 7. Amy, good gorilla. Amy, pretty.
Yes, you are.
This is a talking gorilla, Moira. This gorilla is talking.
I know, Boyd.
But this is really happening. This isn't Mr. Ed.
I know it's not Mr. Ed.